Okay, so I am going to explain what Lightbot is and how it can be used in a classroom and what are the good things, bad things, and the how it teaches resiliency to kids. So Lightbot is actually a game, programming game that levels you up each time you do something right, and it's made up of like different sectioned off levels, so teaching you different things. So the first one's a tutorial, the second one are procedures, and then the third one is loops, and that's just on the free one. On the one that you have to pay, which is about $4, you get another 50 levels, and you just kind of progress through the game. You're trying to light up the squares, and it's teaching you the pretty much the basics of gaming, and then other aspects of it. Sorry, coding, not gaming. And so the affordances in the classroom are that if I were to use Lightbot, is first weekly questions. So if I wanted to teach coding literacy, um, I could have different goals in mind each week and different things that the students are going to learn. And I could give them questions on the board that they're supposed to figure out the answer to. And it can be like a weekly problem that we all work up to. And regardless if one student figures it out earlier than another, it's to get everyone at the same page by the end of the week. If you're wondering why I picked that photo, that's because that's the question from DC Comics. So that's why that works. And it can also be, I know a lot of people are down on homework, but I think homework, when done properly, is meant to reinforce the learning. And I think if I were to be teaching programming and coding, Lightbot would be a really good way to reinforce that by giving students levels to complete each day or each week or whatever it may be, and to see them progressing. And if they have problems, then we can bring it up the next day, and a way for students just to get a better handle um, on coding, and for me to see their progress and their assessment. And then overall, it's just a great tool for coding literacy because it teaches a whole bunch of just a fast way for anybody at any grade to learn, regardless of their standing as a grade or how old they are. I played it and I found a lot of enjoyment in it. Um, the product itself, the affordances for the product itself is that it's a great jumping off point into other areas of coding. So if I were to teach this tool, I would easily then, once I have them understanding loops and procedures and stuff like that, it's really good to move into things like Makey Makey or Scratch, and then moving on to further coding. So it's a very useful tool just to get around those difficult concepts. It's great practice for learning and resiliency for children. Um, it's step by step, so it only gets like not a lot. Like it's a very good step by step process that it doesn't ever make you do something too hard, and it gives you the time to figure it out, and it gives you the right amount of space that you're supposed to be using, so you know when you've done it properly, and you can keep testing. So it's a very fast game, and um, it doesn't take a lot of your frustration, as it were. Um, it teaches a lot of good abstract and difficult coding concepts like loops and procedural loops and stuff like that, and it's things that if you were trying to explain to students without actually having like a hands-on example or having them explore it themselves would be very difficult, especially for younger grades. And I think a game like this provides a spark to learn for coding, so giving students a way to learn about it. Um, It also aligns well with Bring Your Own Device and digital badges for the 21st Century Horizon report. I think it's really good to have as a game on your phone that students can play with and have at their own disposal. And What it can also do is I think it's great for digital badges. So in line with having weekly problems and having homework that reinforces the learning, digital badges is a way for them to gain experience and let me know that they're reaching levels. But again, digital badges isn't for another 4 to 5 years, so that won't happen until later. But it's definitely something you can do in class, is like the analog badge and stuff like that. Um, it also provides 21st century learning skills like critical thinking. So students have to think about making it more efficient and remembering redundancy coding and stuff like that. It wants you to be as efficient as possible. It's great for collaboration. I think students could work well together trying to figure out the answer. Communication with themselves and understanding how coding communication works, and a self-awareness of their own learning, of understanding how they're learning and where they're getting wrong and what they're getting right, and successes and failures and stuff like that. It also, under the principles of e-learning, especially looking at the tutorial and as the levels progress, it does a great job of coherence, where it gives you exactly what you need, as much as you need, each step of the way, and it's really, really straightforward, something that I imagine any student can really get behind, and segmenting is really good at sectioning off what each student needs to learn. And I picked the poster for Mulholland Drive because that's the most incoherent movie that you'll ever see in your entire life, so that's why I put that there. Um, Next are the constraints. So it's kind of difficult to incorporate real world problems. You could kind of do it as a teacher, and as if like if you knew the next level, you could make up a real world problem, or you could make one up and kind of create it and have students solve it. But the app itself isn't really good for anything real world applicable. So that's why global citizenship is not exactly a 21st century learning skill I imagine you can do with Lightbot. It's difficult to incorporate past augmentation in the SAMR model. It's really hard to use it for like modification and redefinition, because again, it's more like a jumping off tool to learn the skills of coding. So any further application, any modification can't occur because the game is rather rigid in its levels. It has pre-made levels, and there's no level creator. If there was a level creator, I think it would be a lot better. So there's no real room for creativity as far as in the classrooms, and allowing the teacher to use it better. I imagine that likely there'll be a lot of guidance needed for young learners to get a hang of it and to understand it. And as far as trends go for digital literacy, it's not really a long-term trend. It could probably be still used later for younger grades to understand coding, but as of right now, it's barely a midterm one, and it's just really only good for a short-term trend, just to get everyone on the same page and using it later on just for jumping off points. As far as how it would enhance resiliency and growth mindset, is that it's a really good game to provide an understanding of what coding is. That you make a code and, oh look, I've done it wrong, or I've used too much space and I have to make it more efficient, or I have to make it work for me in certain ways. And you can kind of work around parameters too. I found that when I was playing, I made a mistake, but it actually made the code more efficient because I kind of worked around the kind of dimensions that they gave me for the problem at the time. So there are different ways to kind of think outside the box. And so it allows students to go through trial and error and figuring out the method and algorithm. So they're understanding what coding is like an algorithmic and logical process. And so each mistake is actually your own learning, and it really provides an opportunity for kids to be far more resilient than they can be, and understanding like, oh, I made a mistake, but like I got to keep going. This is exactly what computer programming is. Any computer programmer will tell you that there's always some problem with their coding, and it happens after you could write a lot, and it could get really confusing at some point. It's your job to try and find it. On top of providing resiliency, it can also be a great tool to provide kind of real world creation. So if a student is having trouble visualizing or understanding where the problem is in their coding, you can use real life objects to recreate the scene. What I mean by that is you could make because there's only so many options you have in the game as far as what you can do. You can make real world examples and apply it in the classroom, so they can make this level using Lego or something like that, or they could have like a little, like their own little Lego person and define the parameters of the problem, and then have their little character move around, and each time they could write down what they're doing and have this entire length of code, and then from there be like, okay, where can we make it less redundant? Where can we provide a loop? Where can we just kind of visualizing the problem in a different way. So students create internal scripts when it comes to coding, and this is a way for them to externalize it and create real life examples in case they get stuck. So it's showing them that the problem can be transferred in another area, even though it's a digital one to start with. And I think that's outside the box thinking that innovation and growth mindset provides.